Welcome to Easy Elim Learning Simplified. My name is Ruth, and today we are going to be discussing on the introduction to chemistry. We are going to learn about collection of gases. Previously, we were focusing on the Bunsen burner, and we looked at the different flames produced by the Bunsen burner, and also the best Bunsen burner flame that can be used for heating the laboratory. So for today, we'll look at the methods of collecting gases, and then later on, we're going to look at one question or some questions that focuses on what you are discussing. So depending on the method of collection that we choose for different gases will be determined by different characteristics. So various reactions usually produce gases. Some of the gases can be colorless, while others can be colored. So, and also some other reactions might also produce poisonous gases, which might be poisonous to the human body or might cause pollution. So, this also needs to be considered when we are collecting the gases. We need to consider this, and examples of colored gases we have is chlorine, which is green yellow. We have nitrogen oxide, which is brown, and bromine, which is red brown. We do have also other gases that are colorful. We are going to discuss them in details later on. And then we have some colorless gases that also we are going to come across in the syllabus. We have oxygen, we have carbon 2 oxide, we have carbon 4 oxide, we have sulfur 4 oxide, we have hydrogen and ammonia. So we have to consider a few factors when we are choosing how to collect or the method of collecting these gases. And one of the factors we consider is density. Density is in relation to the air. How much heavier is it in relation to air, and how lighter is it in relation to air? And then also we have to consider solubility in water, because if this gas is soluble in water, there is no way we can collect it by a method that involves water. We also have to consider color, because we want to know when the gas is full, for example, and also toxicity, because if a certain gas is very toxic, we prefer a certain process of collecting than another process. So let's begin from the first process. We call it upward delivery. Note the word. So upward delivery, because the gas is being delivered on the upper side of the gas jar. And then when it delivers, it displaces the air to the bottom. That's why the other name is downward displacement of air. So this one collects gases that are dense, less dense than air, or basically lighter. They're lighter than air. And then examples are like hydrogen and ammonia gas. We are going to come across hydrogen later on in water and hydrogen. And also the fact that the gas is lighter, it is being supported by the air. The air is on the lower side of the gas jar. And then if we were to collect a colorless gas, like in the case of hydrogen, we may not be able to tell when the gas jar is full. So we only put it when we feel like the gas jar has been full. The next method is opposite of this, and we call it downward delivery, because the gas is being delivered on the lower parts of the gas jar. It is also referred to as upward displacement of air, because the initial air that was in the gas jar is being displaced on the upper side, because the gas that you are collecting is taking up its space. It is usually for denser air and denser gases or heavier gases. These gases are heavier than air. And examples are like carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and chlorine gas. And it usually displaces the air that set and settles at the bottom. So the air goes upwards. That's why we said we called it upward displacement of air. But if you're not collecting a colored gas, you may not be able to tell also when the container is full. So we look at the third method, we call it overwater method. So you can see the tube is placed inside a gas jar that is lowered in a trough containing water. So water is filled to certain extent. When the gas is being delivered, it displaces the water to the bottom and it occupies the upper part of the gas jar. It's usually used for gases that are slightly soluble in water or completely insoluble in water. Otherwise, you do not want to collect a gas that is soluble because it will dissolve in the water. And also we need to collect it with a gas that does not react with water. And examples are like carbon dioxide, we have hydrogen, we have carbon 2 oxide. Those ones are insoluble in water completely, so we are not able. But for the carbon dioxide, it's lightly soluble. It can form an acid. We are going to learn that later in form 2. And then this method is usually better in comparison to the other two methods because you can actually tell when the collecting tube is full of gas because the water will be displaced completely. And this method is not that suitable if we want to collect our gas dry. You can see it's passing through water. So the gas that we are collecting is not dry. So another final method is the use of syringe where we put our reactant here and then these tubes collect and goes to the syringe. The syringe usually is used for gases that you do not want them to leak into the environment, especially gases that are very poisonous. And it encloses that gas, and you're also able to tell the volume of the gas. You're also able to tell, you can get a specific and exact amount of a gas you'd want to collect. That's why it is also better because it can help you to measure the volume of the gas being produced. Let's look at a few questions in regards to what we have discussed. So the first question is, the diagram below shows two methods of collecting gases in the lab. So we have method A and method B. Name method A and name method B. So method A is downward displacement, downward delivery, or downward displacement or upward displacement of air. And then method B is overwater method. And then question B says, from the methods above, identify one that is suitable for collecting carbon dioxide. So for carbon dioxide, we know that it is heavier than air or it's denser than air. And we said the ones that are denser than air, we collect it by downward delivery. So method A would be suitable. Method B would not be the best, would not be the suitable. It can be used, but it's not suitable because carbon dioxide dissolves in water slightly. So we do not want it, we do not want to lose the amount of gas we are collecting. So the most suitable would be A, where it's not reacting with any other component. Um, so this brings us to the end of the session. In the next lesson, we are going to conclude this topic and we are going to be discussing on now after we are able to dry the gases. Now we have discussed how we collect them, but how do we dry them? So that is what we are going to discuss in the next class. So watch out for that. I see you.